What's up, Internet? I've been mentioning this for a while, but I wanted to make a leveling series to go along with the forum guide for people that aren't familiar with how to level with totems. This is not going to be a racing type video. This is not going to be basically for anybody who is even remotely familiar with leveling, I think. It's just going to be kind of almost like a let's play. We're going to hit every quest, and we're going to go over each step of leveling a totem-based character in the current game. We're going to do this on the current patch, which is 3.13, and we're just going to do it in solo self-found standard. I don't know why it's showing me this now. Sure, we'll just do it in standard though. We'll do leveling. So we're basically going to be following the same thing as the leveling tips in my forum guide, which is going to mean leveling with Holy Flame Totem for the most part. One of the first things I usually do when I make a new character is I set my move only to wherever I've usually got it. Go ahead and equip that. This intro part, there's not much you can do here. You only have to kill a couple of guys. We're not going to kill anything else on the beach because it doesn't actually matter. The game automatically levels you to 2 when you kill Hillock here at the end. So you can just run past all this stuff and fight Hillock because it'll level you anyway. You can grab this large chest, but it really doesn't matter because we're not going to use these gems at all once we get to the other side. And with Hillock, there's not much, you know, to worry about. You just don't want to eat too many hits in a row, especially once he pulls the sword out of his chest. Once you get him to about half health, he pulls this sword out, and he does a lot of damage. You just want to hit him and then run around him. It's pretty easy to kill Hillock. Unless you're in Gauntlet, and then he might just one-shot you. Luckily, we are not in Gauntlet. You are going to have to use your mana pot here, by the way, because he gets a full heal when he does this. It's a riveting fight. But don't take him too lightly, because if he hits you like twice in a row and one of them's a crit, you're just going to die. And you'll feel kind of silly. You can grab all this stuff that he drops. One thing I didn't check, and I really should have, is to set your loot filter. I usually don't go lower than semi-strict if I'm using the regular never sync filter, by the way. I mean, obviously, everybody's got their own loot filter preference. I personally just use never sync. And at League Start, I'm usually on like semi-strict, and I go to strict pretty fast. And now, just like leveling in my forum guide, I'm going to be following the same path. And this is actually how I League Start, which is ultimately all we're going to be doing in this video series. I'm basically going to be practicing a League Start, but I'm going to explain most of the things that I would do. So the first thing we get here is a gem choice, and I usually level with Purifying Flame up until I get access to Wave of Conviction in Act 3. So we'll be grabbing that. Take some gloves, why not? We have another Driftwood Scepter. We can just replace Purifying Flame. We can take Glacial Hammer out. We will never use these skills again. And the rest of this stuff we can just sell. We don't really need the chest piece right now. We'll probably pick one up as we go here. It is good to check. You ever see a racer do this? They come down here and they type NN in this highlight box. Because what they're looking for is a pair of runner's boots. Runners is the only prefix you can get here at this low level that has movement speed, which is why they're doing that. And it is super handy to get movement speed this early. We didn't get lucky here, so we're going to ignore that. Usually you don't really need much of anything if you don't see that. There's no other gems you can get right when you get to town. You could grab Freezing Pulse if you don't want to level with Purifying Flame or anything like that. But Purifying Flame is just the easiest one. Sometimes I will grab this Rustic Sash. I think we might do that just for the video, because Purifying Flame is actually a physical damage spell. It converts damage into fire, or it does physical and fire, but physical damage is in the base. So we want physical damage items while we're doing Purifying Flame, and even like Wave of Conviction and later Holy Flame Totem. These are all basically physical spells. And I also recommend that when you slot your skill for the first time, always check this attack without moving thing. It's really obnoxious to cast spells without that turned on, because if you're out of range, they'll try and run. Now, one thing you're going to find in this video series is that I've never bothered to like really study or learn the layouts in this game. Other people enjoy that kind of stuff. It's not for me. I typically just run through here and kind of wing it. And Purifying Flame is just good for this first start because it's got a decent AoE. It has a natural healing field basically. So this consecrated ground will regen your health if you're standing in it. Makes it pretty easy to survive, like, you know, if you're going to do league mechanics really early on, it's pretty nice to be able to stand in consecrated ground. But this is probably the slowest part of the whole game. The first, I would say, like 3 acts are actually the slowest. Or they definitely feel the slowest, right? Because, I think we need to go this way. Because you don't have any quicksilvers, you don't have any movement speed, you don't really have any damage. We could stop here and kill her Fire Fury. She always spawns by this big campfire. It's probably a waste of time. I think a runner would probably tell you to run past this. But, like I said, I usually don't run past everything. I typically do all the quests. And hey, we got rewarded with a silver flask this time for it, which is pretty insane actually. This is a really great item to get early on, and definitely justifies killing her for us this time. I don't expect to get a Quicksilver Flask very often, but hey, streamer luck, right? So we can use our Quicksilver Flask to go a lot faster. And again, you don't really have to sit here and kill much of anything while you're leveling, but usually when I get a big crowd, I'll turn around and hit it. So your first side quest here is next to the waypoint at the Tidal Island. You go here before you go to the Mud Flats because you can get the medicine chest, and we'll get some of our early gems here. As far as like what direction to go, like I said, I don't pay a lot of attention to the layouts. I don't think there's a good way to tell whether to go left or right to find Hellrake faster on this layout, from what I understand. So just pick a direction and run around the island in a circle. Looks like we found him right here. And it's kind of like most of the bosses you're going to find in the campaign, you're going to fight them pretty similarly. You're going to basically just run in circles and dodge whatever attack they're trying to do. Later on we'll have totems to do even more damage while we are running in circles, but that's the gist of most of the bosses in this game. So grab our medicine chest. We got a life flask and a portal scroll. Now, there's two things you can do here, right? You could use your portal scrolls, or you can just log out, right, to the character select screen. Because whenever you do that, I think it put me in SSF Ritual. Where did it put me? Oh, it just put me in Standard League. Well, that's obnoxious. Anyway, when you log back in, it puts you in the last town you visited. So you don't necessarily need to use your portal scrolls while you're in the campaign if you know what your last town was. You always want to take the Quicksilver Flask, even like how I found one. You want 2 for the campaign. If you don't find one before Act 3, there's a guaranteed Quicksilver. But since we have one, we still want to take the second one. And as far as the gem choice you take here, I typically would take Arcane Surge. We're going to need that for basically the whole game. You can also purchase something like Onslaught. I typically don't. Like I said, I don't try to rush through the story that hardcore. But you could take it for a while. You're not going to be able to keep Onslaught in your build for very long, because we're going to need all of our sockets eventually. So we've got a couple of 3 links here. I'm going to take the chromes for these red, green, blue items. Whenever you've got a red, green, blue that's linked, it's always worth 1 chrome. And I'm kind of assuming that we're playing like under league start style terms here. But I might keep... Man, I probably won't keep a red, green, blue actually. We don't need a red, red. Yeah, we'll get rid of all that. So we don't have any identify scrolls right now, so we don't really need one. Got a little bit better rustic sash. And we will go back. We'll double check since we leveled up once. You can always check when you get back to town to see if there are any runner's boots. Or you can also just check to see if there's any good 3 links. The kind of 3 links you're looking for are typically red, blue, blue, like this. I might grab this as soon as I wonder if since I'm in standard I have access to all my stash tabs. Well, we'll just pretend that I had 1 scroll, I guess. But red, blue, blue, or red, red, blue are the early 3 links that you're looking for, because we're going to want to make 3 links for Purifying Flame, which is a blue gem, and then we're going to want to make a 3 link for Holy Flame Totem, which is a red gem, and then ideally maybe even for Flamewall, which is another blue gem, right? But for now, we only have access to Purifying Flame, so I'm going to pair that with Arcane Surge, and we're not going to level this Arcane Surge. We're going to keep it at level 2, basically for the rest of the campaign, so that we don't have to think much about it. In the meantime, we still want more than 1 3 link, so we're going to make a habit of checking people like Nessa for 3 link wands too. So we don't really care whether they're scepters or wands in the long run. We'll get rid of this while we're here. So now that we turn that in, we're going to go head off to the mudflats. And there's 2 things we got to do here in the mudflats, right? We have to get all of these seashells so we can open the way. But we also want to do this side quest, right? Now you can skip. I'll always point out when you can skip a quest, right? If it's just a side quest that you don't need, I'll let you know. But like I said, I typically do all of these at League Start. But typically, when you get to mudflats, you're going to want to do this main quest step first, because this is actually where you unlock Holy Flame Totem. Now it looks like we got the unique Roa here. Again, like most bosses, you walk in a circle and you cast your spell. This one's a little bit more annoying because he has a degen aura, but this is one of the perks of Purifying Flame. We're constantly regenerating our health. Now, if you don't want to level up a gem, just right-click this instead of left-click it, and it won't level up the gem, but it'll also get rid of that thing on your screen. So we also got a 3 link blue, blue, blue here, and this might be useful later. I'll grab that. We got a rare sash. Why not? Grab our second glyph, and there's our 3rd glyph. These glyphs, by the way, always spawn in like a triangle. So when you find the first one, the 2nd and the 3rd are pretty close, and they're in kind of a triangle formation. And once we found it, we want to go unlock the next area in the waypoint, which is typically to the east. You'll kind of want to run southeast until you hit the water, and then go north from there and follow the wall. And this should lead us to where we're going here. Find the little thing on the wall. This opens up the submerged passage. Now we do have this side quest back there, but like I said, we want to get this waypoint first and go to town because we get a couple of extra important gems here. We also leveled, so we'll go ahead and apply points here. Tarkleigh is going to offer us some more gems. We have Holy Flame Totem, which we want. Frostblink, which we want for now. We won't keep it forever, but we want a movement skill, right? Just toss that anywhere we want. For now, we'll put our Holy Flame Totem here because we don't really have any good spots for it. We will go ahead and sell that for another chrome. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this 3 link for now. Doesn't look like there's any ideal wands, and I don't want to use chromes just yet. I would say one of your earliest goals when we're leveling in Act 1 is we want to make vendor recipe wands, right? There are wands that with a couple of items you can sell to a vendor, and they always award you with a wand with flat damage to spells on it. And these are really powerful for us, especially at low level, because Holy Flame Totem hits pretty fast, right? So we've added Holy Flame Totem. I'm going to put that on F. And I'll put my Frostblink on S. And we're going to set those to always attack without moving, just to make sure we're in the right habit. I'm going to go ahead and turn default attack to move only as well, because I don't really ever want to default attack anything in this game as a caster. Alright. So, now we've got Purifying Flame, Arcane Surge linked to it. We have Holy Flame Totem with no links yet. And we have Frost Blink. We will pick up Steel Skin at some point too. But we're going to go back and we're going to go take care of the Fetid Pool really quick. Now if you follow the wall here on the north, you will always find the Fetid Pool. Sometimes it's a ways to the west, sometimes it's just straight north. But you'll always wind up following, as long as you just follow the wall, you'll find the Fetid Pool pretty quick. And the only goal here is to kill 100% of the monsters. So a lot of times I'll just drop my Holy Flame Totem and keep moving. You can also Frost Blink, which adds a fair amount of damage actually. It does damage where you teleport to and where you teleport from. So until you wind up switching over to Flame Dash, it's a pretty good spell. Left a zombie back here. That's usually the biggest problem with Fetid Pool, is you accidentally leave, like skip a guy and don't notice. And like I said, you can always come back here, right? You can just save this quest for later. The reward for this quest is a single, basically a regret point. So it'll allow you to respec one of your skill points. This is the quote-unquote boss of the area. And you pretty much just want to sit on top of this guy and keep your Holy Flame Totem up and spam your Purifying Flame. Probably should have switched to our other Mana Flask. We'll do that when he dies. Got a better Mana Flask. You do want to try to upgrade your flasks as much as you can. Try not to forget too often to pick up new flasks. Especially in the early game, it helps a lot. So we probably just have a few more guys left. Take those portal scrolls. No, don't go that far, buddy. Level 6, but we're not quite done. This zone is just a big ring, by the way. So if you missed any, you'll know where to look. You can usually just do another lap. One thing that's important, you can go ahead and level all your gems except Arcane Surge, like I said before. You want to grab any iron ring you come across, because we can use these to make our wands. If we don't find any of the resistance rings, we can just make one ourselves, right? We don't have an amulet, so we can go ahead and grab that guy too. We're going to save our Orb of Transmutation, because we do want to try and make those wands as soon as possible. And again, we can log out the character select instead of using a portal, because we've been to Lion Eye's Watch the whole time. We'll spend our skill point. We're heading over to Sanctity first. And we're going to talk to Tarkly and get our Book of Regrets. This is basically an Orb of Regret that you can't trade. And we'll go ahead and get rid of this. We'll get rid of these and this. Now, I would like to switch to wands sooner or later, but we don't have any good wands yet. So we're looking for some 3-leak wands that we can craft at a vendor. Double check for some movement speed boots. We don't have any. There are no 3-link boots, unfortunately. And no 3-link gloves. Well, there's a... yeah, we're not going to do blue, green, green. So, off to the Submerged Passage. Now there's two things we want to do here. One, we want to just get to the next zone, right? This is a zone that we passed through on the way to the ledge. The other is that we want to find the entrance to the Flooded Depths. This side quest gives us, you can tell about what I was saying about the layouts, by the way, I don't memorize them. Anyway, the Flooded Depths side quest gives you a skill point. So we definitely want to do that. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to stop here and do it right now. We're actually going to run past this zone and come back for that. Once we find the waypoint in the ledge in the next zone. So we're kind of just doing a drive-by here. And one thing that's kind of true for most of the zones in this game is that once you kind of realize where you entered the zone, you can see that we kind of entered the zone from the east side. You're typically going directly opposite of the waypoint, or the way you came in is where the progress to the next zone typically is. So we're kind of just going to go to the west here. Drop a Holy Flame Totem. Whenever we have like a big pack of blues, we usually want to stop and do something about it. There's a 3-link red blue hat. That'll be pretty useful. An upgrade to our mana flask, also useful. And this is what I was looking for, the staircase. This staircase across this little chasm here, it's always like the halfway point. And what it means is that perpendicular to this staircase, so either northeast or southwest, is the entrance to the flooded depths. It's always that way. Now I can either drop my portal right here, or I can just go check. It looks like because this is blocked off, the entrance to the flooded depths is probably down here somewhere. So we can run down here and check. And as usual, while I'm recording, the game wants to prove me wrong. It's probably up here then. Yeah, so this is the entrance to the flooded depths. And so we're actually going to drop a portal here. We're not going to go in there yet. We just want to be able to come back here quickly. And that portal should stay open for plenty long enough for our purposes, because we're not going to dawdle here any longer. We're going to go ahead and run across this staircase now and keep going in the general direction of the staircase, right? So whenever you find the staircase, you're just going to keep going in the same direction the staircase was going. And one of the things we're keeping an eye out for, especially right now, I mean, a rare scepter wouldn't hurt, but we're looking for wands that we can use that are suitable to upgrade. So we're looking for wands that are basically 3-linked, and ideally they're either red, blue, or like red, blue, maybe even blue would be okay for Flamewall or something. But the important bit is that they're basically 3-linked, because we want to craft our wand on a 3-link. We're going to be using crafted wands for quite a lot, if not the entire campaign. So you find a ledge, and this is a linear zone. There's no like wrong way to go here. The waypoint is basically halfway through this zone though. So we're going to just kind of run through all this crap, drop a Holy Flame Totem sometimes to have it sit and farm some experience behind us. We do want to grab most of the currency that we drop early on, if you're in a League Star anyway. A lot of it's really useful to get through the campaign quicker. I definitely recommend, like, people tend to sit on currency a little bit too much in the early game, I think, so we're going to be using a fair amount of it. So like I said, once we find the waypoint, we're actually going to go back and do this flooded depths. But do note this little, like, pile of rocks here, whatever you want to call them. These rocks are always on the side of the waypoint towards the next zone. Right, so the side that doesn't have the rocks goes back to the submerged passage. And the reason that's important is that we may be in the flooded depths long enough that this zone resets. And the ledge can go in either direction, right? It won't necessarily always be going from like northeast to southwest. So you might come back to the ledge and it's a completely different layout. So you want to look when you come back here for those rocks. And they'll tell us what direction we need to go to keep progressing. But like I said, we want to go back for the submerged passage and use that portal we opened. It's important too that when after you drop this portal and you run to the ledge, you don't open another portal. You want to use the waypoint to go back to town and go back for your portal. Because obviously if you open another portal, then it's going to erase this one, right? We want to keep it here. We do have 2 points to spend. So we'll grab Sanctity and start coming up towards this. We're going to be heading for Retribution before we head to the west. That's all contained in the Path of Building link in the forum thread, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the skill stuff because that's pretty much the same every time. With the flooded depths, I often get turned around layout wise here. I'm sure somebody who races a lot could tell you that there's some kind of trick to navigating this little zone perfectly every time. I don't know what it is, so I'm just gonna bumble my way through the zone like usual. We're just looking for a boss in here called Dweller of the Deep. Usually when you find this guy, those little bubbles, that means you're close, although this time he appeared where the boss was. And as usual, boss strategy is drop your Holy Flame Totem and spam Purifying Flame. I also just realized we did not slot our... We didn't pick up a Flamewall, and we should have. So that was it's gonna make this take slightly longer. We'll pick it up when we go back to town. It's not really a big deal. We unfortunately still don't have a 3-link wand, but that's how it goes sometimes. So before we forget, let's go ahead and sell these two. Actually, what is this? We might keep this Driftwood Scepter because I'm not finding any wands still. And this one has absolutely no... Well, I guess it's got physical damage. Eh? It's something. But I think we will drop a chrome or two on this. Blue, blue, blue is usable. Let's do that. We'll put Frostblink in our gloves. We'll use the blue, blue, blue for Flamewall. Flamewall was unlocked actually when we picked up Holy Flame Totem, if I remember correctly. Here? Yeah. So Flamewall. I don't want to connect this to Arcane Surge. Spell Cascade support we need to grab for Holy Flame Totem, or not Holy Flame Totem, for Flamewall, rather. This will make Flamewall cast 3 walls instead of 1 when we use it. Infused Channeling, though, is going to be for a Holy Flame Totem. Since we have a Link Thrower for it, now we'll use it. And then we've got Purifying Flame. We have that on Arcane Surge. We would like this on a... like blue, blue, blue would actually be a little bit better still. For the combustion. We'll try to keep an eye out for that later. You can grab a steel skin. Like, we could grab a steel skin right now. If technically I don't have the Scroll of Wisdom for that. I'd be cheating if I bought that right now. But you can grab it and start leveling it for later if you want. You won't really need the steel skin in the story. But usually I'll pick it up no later than like Act 6 or 7. After I get access to cast when damage taken. But you can like grab it and start leveling it now if you want to use it. We did also pick up a 3-link helmet, so maybe we'll drop our... Let's see, red. I kind of want... Well, this is not gonna... I guess what we'll do is just do this. This way, when we get access to added fire, at least we can drop that in there right now. Yeah, this is definitely my standard account. So we'll try to keep all of our currency on hand and try not to cheat. We're keeping this iron ring because we want to turn this guy at least into a crafted wand. I'll actually just use a little bit of cheat currency to show you how that recipe works. So we have our wand, right? And the wand needs to be magic. Now, right now we just have a white wand, so we'll go ahead and use an Orb of Transmutation and turn that into a magic wand. You want 1 Orb of Alteration, and then you want 1 ring of the element that you want the flat damage to spells to be, either fire, lightning, or cold. I'm going to use fire for this run, and I typically use fire at League Start, because once we get up to Avatar of Fire, fire damage is sort of our priority, because any other element that's not fire is going to get cut in half before it gets converted to fire. So, to make a ruby ring, though, since I haven't found one, we can take a Scroll of Wisdom. We can buy a red gem, the cheapest one being 1 Scroll of Wisdom. And then we sell an iron ring along with the color of the gem, and it'll give us a ruby ring, right? And this is a white ruby ring if we use a white iron ring. If we use the magic iron ring, it would give you a magic ruby ring. We want to use a white ruby ring because this is going to let us to create the lowest level of wand. So put our Ore Scepter. We do ruby ring. We do the Orb of Alteration, and you can see this gives us add 6 to 12 fire damage to spells. It's only level 8, which is convenient because we just hit level 8. And it's going to keep the sockets that it says sockets not shown, but it'll just keep the sockets that the weapon had on it. So we'll go ahead and make one of those for now. And this is just really powerful because if you look at our Holy Flame Totem right now, it does 2 to 4 physical and 2 to 5 fire because it's a 50% conversion skill, right? Where it says 50% of physical damage converted to fire. So adding 6 to 12 fire damage is actually a ton of damage compared to our base damage right now. We also have Flamewall now. I'm going to put that on D, I guess, and turn on always attack without moving. And what this is for, besides the fact that it's going to drop walls of fire that if they stand in, they'll burn, if you shoot projectiles through this flame wall, it adds fire damage to them. Well, our Holy Flame Totem does shoot projectiles, and they will get bonus damage for doing so. Now, our Purifying Flame is not a projectile. We're not going to get the bonus from Flame Wall ourselves. You could technically use Fireball if you really wanted to get the bonus from Flame Wall, but it's not necessary. And we're going to drop it for Wave of Conviction anyway, so we'll be doing that as soon as Act 3. So anyway, turning in the crab quest from whatever, the Flooded Depths or whatever it was called, that gives us a skill point. We'll go ahead and grab Discipline and Trading because we're coming up here towards Retribution. And now we have at least one crafted weapon and, well, a pretty bad rare, to be honest. But it doesn't matter. So we come back to the ledge, and this looks like the same layout. Like this is the same instance we had before. But you can see that the rocks are still here. So we know that we can go this way. And we'll be doing a ton more damage because of this crafted scepter. Like, I probably shouldn't even really be killing these guys. But, you know, I am going to grab pretty much every pair of magic boots that I see. I probably should have checked too while I was in town to try and find movement speed boots. Movement speed is sort of the key thing, right? You really want as much movement speed as you can get. I'm not wearing any rings, so I'll grab that. At some point here, we're going to come across this little hill, which contains a little side boss here named Kaduku. We'll put Flame Wall up now, so our Holy Flame Totem can shoot through it. Don't get hit by the big electricity on the ground. And he'll fall pretty quick. Grab our scroll and our whetstone. Don't need that. There's a blue, and this is a 3 blue. We actually do want a 3 blue. Alright. Let's move on. Now the next zone up ahead is the climb. There's nothing here except a waypoint and the volley. There's nothing to like, there's no side quests or anything. Now, we do want... probably do this, and then we'll move our Holy Flame Totem down here so that I can get a better blue gem for that. And we'll keep that on hand. This can go here. So we've got a few 3-lings. Hopefully. No movement speed. That's okay. Quick coral rings. Why not? And off we go. There's a waypoint to grab here. I usually just grab it on the way. And for the most part, because of the power of like a crafted wand or scepter, a lot of this early game is just really trivial. Holy Flame Totem, you can see it just does a crap load of damage now. There are a couple of side bosses here. There's one here that's always spawned, this green skeleton guy. Iron Point. He dies pretty quick though. And this guy who stomps all of his friends for some reason. I don't know why he does that. But just drop your Flame Wall and drop your Holy Flame Totem, he'll die pretty quick. Like I said, we do want to level up everything except for Arcane Surge. We'll just leave Arcane Surge where it is. This is where you would unlock the volley, but I've already unlocked there because it put me in standard. And this puts us in the lower prison. Now, in the lower prison is where you're going to find the first lab trial. And you want to do all 6 of these so that by the time you get to Act 3 and find the last one, you can get your first ascendancy and actually become a Hierophant. Now, the best way to find the trial is just to watch your map and your mini-map. You'll see a little book icon, and that means that is usually the entrance to the trial. Like right here, we see that book icon on the minimap right here. This should be the trial up ahead. And these bronze monographs are just like lore. You don't need to click those. This first one is like a little ring of spikes. So follow the spikes until we get to the lever, which opens the door. And then we gotta go back. And it really doesn't matter if you get hit by these spikes. You can use a life flask and just keep going. As long as you have a life flask to use anyway. And then for the second one, these spikes alternate, right? So we're gonna wait. When these go down though, we're just gonna jump up here with our teleport. We're not gonna wait and go all the way around. Like, that'd be silly, right? Nice alteration orb. And when you're done, click this guy and it'll open up a portal. Unfortunately, like I said, because it put me in standard, I have everything unlocked, but we're gonna hit all 6 of them on the way. So jump into the portal, and it'll put you right back at the start, and we can move on and find Brutus. Got another skill point. Now we can take Retribution, which is a little bit of damage. Nothing too major. There is Chatters, another side boss. There's not really much of a reason to kill these guys, but I mean, he was in our way. We did find some boots, though. We always want to check for movement speed boots. You want to try and get your links, by the way, outside of your boots while you're leveling, it feels like. That way, if you do come across movement speed boots, you don't have to think about like what skill you have slotted in there for the most part. You always want to be able to upgrade movement speed if you have the opportunity to. And we are still looking for a second scepter at this point. Since we already committed to 1 scepter, we might as well stick with scepters for a little while. But we are going to recreate these wands. We're going to upgrade our wands because we can use magic and then rare rings for that recipe. It gives us stronger versions of that crafted affix. It just has a higher level requirement, which I believe is like 14 and 20, I want to say. There's not too much to this zone, like I said. Usually you kind of go in the opposite direction of the way you came in. So if it spawned us like this, and we're kind of in the east corner here, then we're just going to go west. And we should find it pretty fast. And there's our door. You can stick around here and listen to Piety if you want to have a conversation, but there's not much point. And there is some clickable lore here if you like. In-game lore. We follow the blood trail here, and this should lead us directly to Brutus. Now, if you just want to be safe, if you're a really new player and you've never fought this boss, you can drop a portal here. That way, if you die, you can come back and not have to do some big walk. But just like the other bosses, the strategy here is going to be drop your flame totem, put your flame wall down, and just kind of walk in circles, because you don't want to be standing directly in front of him for very long, right? You don't want to get hit by that. That does a lot of AoE damage. So walking in circles and keeping your spells on him is the play. Those little spikes that he pops out of the ground, those actually don't do that much damage. You don't have to think about those too hard. And he's dead. So we'll grab the rustic sash. I don't see any boots here, any good 3 links, so we'll move on. Some more clickable lore there if you like that. And we can go back and get some more gems. Oh, we went to our hideout. So, we actually want a few skills here. We want clarity, we want flame dash, and we want another support. Clarity is just nice for mana regen and not having to use our potions so much. When we talk to Nessa, we also are going to want probably added fire damage right now, but definitely combustion. Combustion is going to give us like an additional fire resistance debuff to put on enemies, which we will attach to Purifying Flame. So we're going to take combustion here and attach it to Purifying Flame. And if we look at her options, we can take another combustion for Flamewall if we want. It's not really necessary, though. We have the socket for it, so maybe we should just go ahead and do it. Although I've only got 2 transmutes. I gotta remember to not cheat. What's going on there? We do want to grab our Flame Dash, which is a transmute, which is a better movement skill than Frostblink, because it has multiple charges. And again, you always want to double check that it always attack without moving, especially on your movement skill, right? Clarity, I usually put on R, so I don't accidentally click this one, and we can get rid of our Frostblink when we're done with that. I don't think I really care. We can take an added fire at some point. It might be better right now to just go ahead and use another combustion for Holy Flame, because it does have more fire damage. Just so we don't have to think about our links too much. We've got infused channeling. Yeah, that's should be fine. No, keep our current one. We'll get rid of those boots. We're gonna head over here so we can get Light of Divinity and Holy Dominion. We do probably want to check for movement speed boots again, since we still haven't found any of those. Those would be pretty important. I don't think we can get a higher tier movement speed still. We can also check for wands. It wouldn't be bad to switch. Here is a red, blue, blue wand. Unfortunately, there is no blue, blue, blue wand. We'll grab this in case we come across a suitable wand later. Get rid of Frostblink. And went to the Prisoner's Gate. Now we've got Clarity. I usually level this up. You're not going to be using Mind Over Matter until quite a bit later, and by the time you're thinking about using Mind Over Matter, you can afford to have some reservations. So I wouldn't be too scared to level up Clarity for quite a while. Now for this zone, this is one of the few times in Path of Exile campaign where you don't actually want to follow the road. Typically, the best thing to do is to follow the road, but in this case, it actually leads you to a dead end because she blocks the road. So when that happens, you're going to want to follow the wall of the side that she ran into. And we'll find this little... I guess we can grab this shrine and see what it is. Oh yeah, we should definitely grab this. We got a Zoomer shrine going. There are a couple more named guys like this dog here. So, as usual, you can just drop Flamewall, drop Holy Flame Totem. Because we have the Purifying Flame that's dropping all of this, I guess we could sell these. It's dropping all of this consecrated ground. We don't have to worry too much about our defenses. Those things are not going to be able to kill us while we're regenerating all this health. Our Holy Flame Totem also drops a little consecrated ground field, and there's the consecrated ground from Holy Flame Totem will also remove curses. You're completely immune to curses while you're standing in that consecrated ground from a Holy Flame Totem. So it's kind of nice to remember that in case you know, in, for example, Act 5, when there's a lot of temporal chains enemies, you can always just drop your Holy Flame Totem and run through it and constantly remove those. Now, luckily we found Fairgraves pretty close to the waypoint. He's always by one of these books, like these book icons, these carvings, and he's also by the ocean. So you don't actually have to talk to Fairgraves to start this side quest. You can just go to the All Flame, but it's good to know where he is because you do have to turn the side quest into him. So now we'll just follow the old rule of going in the opposite direction from our entrance. We did find essence. Essences, I feel like, are very useful for the early game. They're really good at just making like a ring or a wand later, or some boots or something. We also got a blue iron ring, so we might be able to make our second crafted weapon with that later. Got a skill point. We're going to take Light of Divinity first for more damage. We need damage more than we need defense right now. And we're just kind of heading, like I said, in the opposite direction of the way we came in. And we're looking for a cave entrance. These guys would let us through anyway. Sometimes you should just stop and kill these blue enemies. The blue enemies are worth a lot more, by the way, than regular enemies. Rare enemies are also worth more, but they're a lot tankier. And the minions they spawn with, while they are worth more experience, are not as good as the rare. So the blue packs tend to be the most like worth to stop and take care of. So we found the little cavern. We're just going to run through here. This is a little bit of a confusing zone. You hit a lot of dead ends typically, but the same rule kind of applies where you're going in the opposite direction of where you came in. You know, roughly. And in this zone, you don't even have to fight the boss technically. You can just grab the thing and dip. You do want to be a little bit careful, by the way. Like, this early on, you're really unlikely to die if you open a box, but I would say maybe even as early as like Act 2 or at least Act 3, you want to be thinking about, you know, whether you have a flask that removes freeze if you're not going to identify a box like that. Because if you don't, and it freezes you, it's very easy to die to all the enemies that spawn into there if you're frozen, which is pretty annoying. So yeah, we've got our All Flame. Now I'm actually going to keep going. I'm not going to go back for that just yet. Because since I found the All Flame, and I think it's actually going to be up here because the book is up here. Leveling is convenient, so that gives us our new flasks. Yeah. So we find the Cavern of Wrath. There's going to be a waypoint right on the other side of this door, and then we can just waypoint back to the ship graveyard since we know where Fairgraves is. I give this into him, and plot twist, he is actually a ghost, and a really boring ghost at that. We can just drop a Holy Flame Totem pretty much, maybe a Flamewall, and all this stuff is going to die. I'm even going to allocate this point to Holy Dominion while I wait for him to figure out that he's not actually dangerous. So, getting rid of him, we can go back to town. And turn this in for another skill point. Now this, for when you find the Caverns of Wrath, you can come back here for this gem reward from Nessa. We don't actually need any of these gems. Nothing here is actually very useful for us. It doesn't matter what you take here. But this does unlock the last round of support gems, and this is basically all the gems you're going to get in this act. Bestel is the one that actually gives you the Book of Skill for killing Fairgraves, and that gives us a skill point. And we're now heading over this way. We're going to pick up Divine Fury eventually and then head up towards... well, technically we're going to head up towards Ancestral Bond, but we're going to go past it at first. We are going to do what we were talking about earlier and look for... Whoops. We're going to look for boots with movement speed. He's only got a couple of pair of boots this time, it looks like, so no luck there. And we'll double check the wands too. No 3-link wands. One thing you might want to think about when we're coming up on Merveil is she does a fair amount of damage for the end boss, and resist is really useful. So if you're like this and you're in this terrible of gear, you probably will be at least, consider grabbing a sapphire ring or keeping an eye out for a sapphire ring just to equip, because having like just 30% cold resist is a really big difference. And because this, in fact, because this essence is just maximum life on armor, I'm probably going to throw this on the ring. Although making, that's probably, we should see if there's some boots. Having another shot at movement speed boots would actually be probably the wiser thing to do with this essence. These are green, green, red. I don't technically have a transmute. No, we're not going to cheat. We're not going to cheat. We are going to sell these, though. We're not going to use that. Get rid of that. Oh, we got a transmute. Alright, let's go get those boots, then. Where are those boots at? We'll definitely have to take these guys. They're the only ones that... These are not, even if I use my chrome on this, there's no chance that the colors on this are actually going to be useful. There's no other boots. So I'll probably just take these ring mails and we'll throw this on there. We did not get... we didn't get much of anything, actually. I'm just going to sell this. That's how it goes sometimes. But we do have 50 cold res, which is plenty for Merveil. So we'll head over to Merveil's Caverns. There's a couple of optional bosses in the caverns that I used to kill for good luck. I kind of, just as a joke, used to say it was bad luck to leave here without killing her daughters. But you don't have to. It doesn't actually do anything. It just makes her mad. And this is another one of those zones that you should probably learn the layout of. You can, like if you just take a dead end like this, try to keep an eye out if the zone wraps around though, because we do have a teleport now, right? So we don't actually have to walk the long way around there. It would have been nice to get 2 crafted wands before we got to Merveil. It actually makes the Merveil fight a lot easier, so if you can, definitely try to make a second crafted wand before you fight her. It's not a big deal if you can't, really, but it's nice. Each one is a really large damage boost, and we're actually getting close to the second tier of crafted wands anyway. So these treasure chests, by the way, are what spawn her daughters. You don't have to kill these, but they're pretty easy, so you might as well. Sort of secretly hoping that we'll get something that we can craft another weapon with, but does not look to be. And this second zone is almost exactly like the zone you just walked through, and the same principle as usual applies. You're kind of heading generally in the opposite direction that you walked in from. So other than potentially stopping to kill her other daughter, you can just kind of zoom through this place. If you're gonna play the axe like this and you're gonna do all the side quests, you don't really even have to pay attention to your level very much. You don't even really have to kill as much stuff as I'm killing. if you don't want to. If you're doing the side quest, everything's just going to work out for you experience-wise. We'll probably get to her around level 14. Assuming we're not doing the lead mechanic. Yeah, we just hit 14. Which is definitely a lot higher, by the way, than if you were trying to go really fast. Because you would skip these side quests that don't reward skill points. And you might even skip the ones that do reward skill points for a little while. And come back and do those. So as you can see, the layout is what I'm talking about. We came in on this side, and we could tell that this was the corner. And it's a straight, almost a straight line, right? And that's actually how a lot of the zones in this game work. You just like head in the exact opposite direction as you came in, and like 90% of the time it's either that or follow a road. Like one of those two things is almost always going to point you in the right direction. But Merveil, the rules for every boss still apply here. It's just more annoying because she likes to teleport and we don't have a ton of mana. Clarity is definitely helping. Just try to put your Flamewall and your totem back down. Be a little bit careful with these statues. She spawns a group of them like this, and if you're staying in the middle of them, it's really easy to die. Because they'll all kind of walk to you more quickly if you're in the center of all of them. And they hit surprisingly hard. And so if they all hit you like in succession or one after the other, you know, you can get stun locked and die really, really quickly, and it feels embarrassing. But otherwise, just pay attention to where she teleports to. She likes to do that right there. Or she teleports somewhere and then immediately teleports back, thinking she's very cool, but she's not. Now, once she's dead, the zone is actually not done. You have to walk through this little door. There is a little piece of lore there if you like lore. And we gotta follow this wall and kill some bugs and some apes. And this will lead us directly into the Act 2 town. We don't want to leave any currency behind though, because we are assuming we're at League start. And so we'll get there around 14 to 15, assuming we did all the side quests. Whoops. I did not follow my own advice. We need to follow the wall. And there's a little named bandit here if you want to stop and kill him before you walk into town. He's always there. And now, after a little bit of warping, we are at the Forest Encampment. Act 1 done in very boomer, slow-mo fashion, but about as easy as it gets. And it's only going to get easier from here. It's actually probably the hardest. That act, or maybe the start of Act 5, I would say, are probably the hardest points in the campaign. I'm going to split all these into act by act videos because they're going to get long otherwise. So I will see you guys in the next video. And we'll get this guy to maps. See you then.